Everybody has a superpower. Everybody does. So the real question, how do you find yours? To teaching, making complicated things, not only make them simple to people to understand, but making people believe that they can do it. So if somebody gives me a compliment about one of my books, they'll come up to me and they'll say these words: "Wow, I believe I can do it. In fact, I'm doing it." That's the biggest compliment you can give me. Now, if it's too complicated, then their mind gets muddled and they don't do it. So it has to be simple, which means I have to kind of throw out a lot of the complicated stuff. I have to kind of boil it down to like the fundamentals. You know the principle, Pareto principle, 80% of the things you do give you 20% of your results. So what I do is what are the 20% of the things they need to learn that'll give you 80% of their results. Therefore, my books, my training, my speeches, the speech tonight, I'm going to try to keep it simple, because the more detail we go into it, the more they get muddled, the more they say, I can't do it, the more they have a hard time remembering it. They go, okay, I'll watch that later, I'll learn that later. No, I need them to decide now that they can do it, that they believe they can do it. And so I think that's my superpower. You find out what your talents are, what your passions are, what your values are. That's really kind of how your DNA works. It's like, this guy's pretty good at that. This gal, she kind of, somebody comes up to you and they go, well, you're so good at that. Well, how do you do that? And I say, well, that's just my piece of cake. And they go, what do you mean by piece of cake? I say, well, somebody asked me, how do I speak to an audience without being terrified of what they think? I say, well, it's just a piece of cake to me. I just go out and talk, And they go, but I could never do that. Well, that's my superpower. In other words, it doesn't bother me at all. I literally have no fear whatsoever. I look forward to it. I'm excited about it. Fears are a big one for people. Sometimes your fear stops you from doing what you are really good at. I've had a lifetime of overcoming my fear, till eventually I go, well, I don't care what people think. This is who I am. This is what you get. It took me a long frickin' time to get to that. I was so terrified of selling stuff from the stage, because I didn't want people to think of me as a salesperson, as a selly kind of a person, I was afraid of what they would think of me. I mean, how many millions of dollars have I lost because I was afraid of what other people thought? And when there's a quote that I love, and that is, you would be a lot less worried about what people think of you if you realized how little they do. In other words, people are so worried about their own thing, their own fear, what you think of them, that half of their energy is protecting themselves from what they think you're going to think of them. What if you didn't have to invest that kind of energy anymore? What if you came up to somebody and you didn't care whether they liked you or not, whether you're friendly to them or not, whether the way you looked was okay, whether you were enough, all that stuff, where you're finally okay with the way you are, the way you present yourself, then you're there. Then you're at the superpower stage. When people ask me, yeah, but the things I'm really good at don't generate any money. Really? Is that true? When you think about it, no, that's not true. I can't think of a single thing that you know how to do that couldn't earn you money, because there are 7 billion people on the planet. Even if only 1 in a million of those 7 billion people eventually sent you money for something, that's 7,000 people. The point is, it's a big, huge world. And so you discover the things that you have learned in your life. What have you learned? Whatever been your ahas, what's your wisdom you've gained? What kind of skills, what kind of talents, what kind of things have you figured out how to do? Somebody in the world wants to know that. So if you ever make the decision that what you know cannot earn money, that's a lie. I could show you how to do that. Anybody is willing to have you coach them on anything. And what if you made $100 from just one person? How many people do you need to make $1 million? That's 10,000 people? You just need one at 100, and just go find 9,999 more. Wrong question. I say that to my wife all the time. What's the right question? What do you know? How can you find people who would like to know what you know? Share it with them. To sell something you haven't created yet. In other words, most people are not willing to sell something because it's not pretty yet. It's not in a beautiful packaging, and it hasn't been edited. It hasn't. It might take 6 months to kind of pull together what they think it needs to look like. For example, one of my students, her name is Linda, and we were doing a little training, and I challenged her. I said, Linda, what do you know how to do? She says, I'm a painter. And I said, well, are you doing okay painting? And she said, well, I'm kind of a starving artist. No, I sell paintings, but not as many as I'd like. And I'd say, Linda, you're selling the wrong thing. She said, what do you mean, Robert? I says, you're selling paintings. You should be selling how to paint. And she goes, what would people pay me for that? I says, you can make $1,000 by tomorrow. And she goes, no. I said, I'll write you a little email that you send to the people you know. She had like 200 people on her cell phone, on her database on her phone. I said, send this email to these 200 people, and one of them is going to give you $1,000. She says, no. So I created the email. She sent it out to her 200 people. The next day, one of those 200 people said, I've always wanted to learn how to paint. Linda, you're so good. How would you train me? I live in Florida. You live in California. How could you do that? She said, well, do it online. I can teach you online. I got a way for you to watch what I'm doing, and then I can watch what you're doing. I said, it's only $1,000, and we'll do a 16-week course until you're good enough. And she says, I'm in. How do I get you the $1,000? And that very next day she called me, and she thought, to go from zero, not even any idea that I could do this, to a real $1,000 check in my bank account was stunning. Did she have a course outline all figured out? No. Did she have a cover for her art class? No. Did she have anything? No. She just had an email that said, I'd like to sell you my knowledge. It's $1,000. Who wants it? Then, of course, she has time, week by week by week, to create the curriculum that she's going to be teaching to these people week by week by week. And so 16 weeks later, the whole course is done, and now she teaches a seminar, like a one-day seminar where all 16 weeks are jammed into one day. She videos it, she does it on Zoom, whatever, she records it, and now she's got a program, a product that she can sell to other people. Maybe not it's 1,000 this time. 1,000 is only for a personal, one-on-one coaching thing, but maybe for $100, she'd sell that seminar, that Zoominar. It's all recorded. How many people does she need to buy her $100 program for her to make $1 million doing that? 10,000 people. So how do you find those 10,000? Well, that's marketing. That's another conversation. But creating the product is easy. Part of life is trying to discover what are your talents, what are your gifts, and sometimes we get stuck in one and we don't reach out to try to figure out what other things could we do. And I think that's what the purpose of life is, figure out what your superpowers are. And if you want to expand, I think you need to expand into things you like to do, things that you're good at, things that are important to you, things that your values are. I think that's just kind of like the groove of you. And you can widen your groove, I think, a little bit, but pretty much, it's going to pretty much stay in the same kind of a groove. You just got to figure out what your groove is. And then why would you want to do anything else, Because you'll spend 10,000 hours that to gain your expertise. So you love to do it so much, why would you want to do anything else, to tell you the truth?